Merry Christmas. I just wanted to put out another video because it's been a while. Um, and today I just wanted to talk about citizenship in the way that not just like responsibilities, but also who is, qualified for citizenship, even people who were born here, whose parents were born here. Are they really feeling that sense of citizenship and attachment to country? So citizenship, if you look at the book definition, is again, going back to those responsibilities and voting and, feeling like, you know, you have like responsibilities towards local events, local like parks, stuff that's being built. And of course, the constitutional definition is anyone who's born here. But there's another definition of citizenship that's global, that's, in other countries is defined differently. And that is citizenship meaning attachment to country, and people who feel like they belong to where they've been living for years. This has nothing to do with place of birth. This has nothing to do with, um, responsibilities towards, the things that come with being a citizen. People who have been, for example, in like Brazil for many years, who've married a Brazilian, who are, like perfect in Portuguese, people who have worked with Brazilians, have constant contact with Brazilians, for example. These people are considered Brazilian. This is the definition of Brazilian. Just an example, I'm using Brazil. Um, Germany. These people are considered German, people who have at least, one German mother or father, people who have that background and have some kind of like attachment to the land. So in America, it's very limited. The definition of citizenship is just anyone who's born here, and, hey, and that's it. People who probably were born here, um, and they, hello, yes, and they moved out. Maybe they moved to a different country and they've been living there. They haven't come back to America. They're still citizens of America, and obviously they don't have any attachment to America because they never went to school here. They never had American friends. They're not familiar with American history, so it's hard to really call these people, citizens and Americans. And I go to my classes and I see kids, for example, from Nicaragua, and they're expressing like, I want to go home. I feel like no one likes me here. I feel lonely. No one understands me. And then, the teachers ask him, like, were you born in Nicaragua? When did you come to America? Was it like last year, 2 years ago? And he's like, no, I was born in America. And, um, and they act surprised. They're like, then why are you feeling such, like a stranger if you were born in America and probably have never been to Nicaragua? Um, well, it's because they don't have that attachment. They're born here, but they don't have that attachment, and they don't feel American, which is sad because you want someone who's born here to also be part of society, part of the people, know traditions, speak the language. They're all important things. They're not just there for us to use. They make us feel belonged and give purpose to our lives. They're not just celebrations or, these things we do just to, get a day off from work. they mean something and they come from history. And um, so when people don't feel connected to those things, they they go back to their ethnic background, and again, it has nothing to do with being born at a certain place. So, um, I think the global definition of citizenship is more acceptable. It's broad. It includes more like bullet points, and in America and also in Canada, I think um, just being born somewhere doesn't really make you like American or Canadian. Um, I think some other country. I'm thinking probably um, Tanzania. I think has also that definition of citizenship, which is birth, place of birth, um, and everywhere else in the world, the definition of citizenship is having connection to that country, to its people, um, and of course, people who do immigrate to those countries can get citizenship um, by marriage or by just being born to at least one, for example, British parent, or um, being adopted even. So stuff like that, and that's very important to have communication with, for example, an American, to have communication with coworkers that are American and not just people who speak your language at your job. And I think, people think that this is so convenient for them, but it's kind of, like bringing that isolation and alienation. Um, so I think, I was born here, but I have a lot of disconnects too. Um, I've been to Iran, I've been to Turkey, but I don't have really that sense of Americanism as my neighbors do, because I've never really exposed myself to too much American culture. Or, I mean, I grew up with American movies, cartoons, TV. I read books in English. I'm perfect at English, but because I don't have connection, because both of my parents are Iranian, I don't have the same feeling of Americanism, even though I was born in America. So I think, as the years go by and as, more people come here, I think it's important to revise the definition of citizenship, because obviously, if more people are coming here, they're not going to be considered citizens because they're not born here. So we would have to, use a different definition. Okay, you weren't born here, but you've been living here for 40 years, maybe, or you have an American grandmother, or you uh, know a lot of history, American history. You solely speak English. This is what people are in other countries are looking for when they see someone as German or Brazilian. They don't just look at place of birth. And honestly, place of birth is kind of targeting as well, I think. When we ask people where they're born, well, being born somewhere, first of all, isn't a choice. You don't get to choose where you're born. And that doesn't, again, define how American you are, because there are people who are born here, there are white people who are born here, never stepped out of America, and they feel alienated. They look for other things to identify with. They search into their, ancestry, their background, and they want other things to identify with besides just American. They look into different religions. They convert to Buddhism. They like pull out a bunch of nationalities and say, "Oh, I'm like part this, part that," and well, how much do they really know about that stuff? You know, that's just part of their blood, but it's not really who they are as um, a person. So I think going back to um, what the definition of citizenship is, um, we need to expand it and you know have it be more than just place of birth, because again, like I said, we have people coming here every day and they're not born here, and some of them feel more American than the average person who was born here. I mean, people who have been, living here for like 20 years maybe, they've made connections with Americans, they've traveled America, they've studied American history, they know perfect English, and you know, they call America home, and I think it's kind of unfair for us to just judge someone by place of birth. And it's just getting old. So that's the global definition. Again, I think only America, Canada, and Tanzania have the birth um, citizenship, birthplace as citizenship. Everyone else in the world has um, at least one parent being a citizen of that country, which makes you a citizen of that country, because the connection is important. To have a connection with that country, the people, the culture, and the closer you are, obviously, the more um, American you are, or the more British you are, whatever. So I just wanted to talk about that, and I think emphasizing American culture, whatever it is, really. I know there's a lot of dark spots in it, but whatever it is important, because it's not from anywhere. It's from right here, and it's not related to Europe. It's not, um, for a specific group of people. It's for everyone, because it comes from this geography. So we need to make people like be able to connect with American culture, not European culture. I'm not talking about like Christmas or Mardi Gras or um, like stuff that's been imported from Europe. No, I'm talking about stuff that are from right here, like Day of the Dead, Thanksgiving. Like these are from right here. They're not from anywhere else. It's not from white people or whatever. So if people can, kind of convince themselves to connect with these things, they will feel included, and they will feel that they have a purpose, and we're not that different when it comes to, you know, population and diversity. We always talk about diversity, but we don't really talk about the stuff that we have in common. So, yeah, I mean, you can share your thoughts. What do you think, or who do you think is a citizen, and what is the definition of citizenship? Thank you.